This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV, it's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, the show that looks at the money behind the music industry with me, Steve Lamack, and Music Allies Head of Insight, Stuart Dredge. How are you, Stuart?
Do you know, I'm good. And the main reason for that is it's April Fool's Day, and I didn't fall for an April Fool's when I was writing my news bulletin this morning. Because every year I'm like, God, what if I write a story up based on someone? So I didn't fall for any, and I did my own for Music Ally that people have liked. So.
Oh, really? Can you share it with now it's out in the world already, or is that bad luck? I don't know.
No, I think by the time people hear this, it'll be the next day. No, it was just about Elon Musk buying music catalogs, and which is not funny in itself, but there were just some lines in it about like bands on a label he bought and things. So yeah, it was like a little full of Easter eggs, and then links to Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" as well. And the fun thing is you can sort of see on our back end system, we send our newsletter out, you can see how many clicks links have got.
Right.
So I sort of was there going, right, 37 people have clicked on the Rick Astley link. Possibly some of them knowing it's an April Fool and wanting to see what I've linked to, but hopefully others were like, wow, Elon Musk buying, oh man, Rick rolled.
Just before we get to this week's news, I've got a good fact for you that I came across by accident last week. See if you can work this one out. 2007 was the peak of which format for sales of music, and how much did that format make for the American record industry? 2007. The absolute peak.
Okay. So it's not, was it vinyl? Could be vinyl. Is it going to be something esoteric like mini disc?
Oh, you see, I mean, I would have probably guessed mini disc. It's ringtones.
Ringtones.
In inflation-adjusted figures, the Recording Industry Association of America said that ringtones were worth $1.6 billion in 2007.
Wow.
How about that? Ringtones, by the way, the last time anyone recorded how much they were making for the American record industry, ringtones were worth £10 million.
do you know, that used to be my job, covering that side of the industry, like ringtones. And it was in the days before streaming, it was ringtones. And it was this weird thing where like people were not buying music and the money was going down, but people were spending £3 on a ringtone.
Yeah.
It was a very strange period.
Has a music format ever had such a meteoric rise and fall? And weirdly, that's when I started thinking about, well, I suppose mini disc, but mini disc probably never grossed that amount of money for the industry. Would it have done? I don't think so.
No, I used to record my interviews on a mini disc recorder, like back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I had like one album. I think I had one album for it. I can't remember what that album was, but I know I had one album that I would listen to on the plane when going to do interviews somewhere on a trip. But yeah, that never quite took off.
I think I've still got 2 albums on mini disc, which one's by Muse and the other is an Ash album. I can't remember which one it is. Anyway, that's enough history. Ed, what are this week's big news stories and big numbers? Actually, we'll start with a big name this week. Ed Sheeran and a group of prominent British musicians have called for £250 million of extra investment in music education.
Yeah, so this is something like the story here is Ed Sheeran asking for money for music education, but the backstory to it is he's got this foundation he set up, which I think we might have mentioned before. The Ed Sheeran Foundation, well named, does what it says in tin. And it just focuses on music education in the UK. So it's a cause that is close to his heart, and he's actually putting some money into it already. And yeah, he wrote to Sir Keir Starmer, and it's a good list of names. If you're trying to persuade politicians, it's Annie Lennox, Central C, Coldplay, Dave, Fred again, Harry Styles, Stormzy, like a mixture of sort of very famous established artists and then the cutting edge people who are doing really well from Britain's exports today. And yeah, basically pointing to what we've talked about in the past, which is that UK artists weren't so high in the end of year charts last year in UK. Lots of American artists were instead. And saying, yeah, as an industry, we bring in 7.6 billion quid to the UK economy, but the next generation is not there to take the reins. And so they've got this list of wish list, really. They want 250 million quid a music education package to repair. And the quote here is decades of dismantling music. So it's very much looking at like how music in schools has kind of gone downhill in terms of investment. They want more funding, train more teachers, a new fund to support youth music projects, more music apprenticeships, and a more diverse music curriculum in schools. And they want the music industry to be involved in that as well. So, which I took that as like, right, not just Beethoven and Lloyd Webber, because that was what I did in music in school. It was all either classical music or it was Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, which you don't want to hear as a class of 30 boys, most of whom aren't singers, singing Joseph. It puts you off for life. So it's all good stuff. And it all sounds very logical. Like all this money invested would come back to you in terms of future music exports and music business stuff. It's kind of laying the groundwork. But with the knowledge that, and we'll get onto this with the next story, I think, the knowledge that there's a lot of pressure on spending and where money is going at the moment. And it's more likely to go into increasing defence than it isn't to going to music. So
I think the other thing here is that, as well as calling on government, wouldn't it be an idea if some of the musicians actually called on their own industry? Because what you're saying there rings true with a meeting I was in the other day, where people were asking record labels and other big companies around music, so in the live industry, wherever, publishers, record label, if you don't invest in the next generation, whereas the next generation of young, talented music industry execs going to come from. So there was a call there for increasing the amount of apprenticeships available, or job opportunities, which would open things up for anyone really, and not just people who can afford to intern for 6 months to get a job, but actually paying money to educate and nurture new talent in the music industry. Surely some of that falls at the industry's own door, doesn't it?
You would think so, yeah. And I think it's two things, isn't it? Like one thing is where are we going to get the next stars from? And that's what this letter is talking about, if we're not going to have the next Ed Sheeran if you don't invest. But it's also the whole society stuff, like music, having access to music is a good thing. And people saying, well, this can help in all kinds of problems that we have, that we talk about. I mean, like everyone's banging on about adolescence this week. I don't know if you followed that debate about the Netflix show. And it's kind of
not as closely as some.
Everyone with teenage boys. Everyone with teenage boys. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say you have to remember that I was at the Six Music Festival for part of last week, and then straight on to Butlins in Skegness. So I'm as out of the loop as it's possible to be.
Okay, so Adolescence is like a show, and it's kind of playing into this debate about young boys and the manosphere and being radicalized online. And it's got, if you're a parent of teenage boys, you know about this show and you're currently terrified because it's kind of the what's the worst that could happen. But that's shining this new light on kind of some of those issues in society about teenagers and what they're doing and how they're in the right path. So all of this is good. Like, it all makes perfect sense. But like you say, it maybe isn't going to come from government in terms of extra money. There's stuff they can do, but maybe it is time for the industry to go, well, this is worth us investing in. And I think we'll probably get letters now from the industry saying, here's how we are already investing in music education, because there is stuff they're doing. Yeah. But maybe 250 million quid, it's not, I say it's not much in the scheme of things. Like in a scheme of general budgets and finance, it is small, isn't it? In terms of that could make a meaningful difference, but it's not compared to spending billions on X or Y in government. But yeah, maybe it's the industry's job.
Talking of government, various music industry bodies are very cross with the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, after last week, and the spring financial statement. Who is cross? Why are they cross?
Everyone is cross. Poor Rachel Reeves. Everyone seems to be cross at her nowadays, don't they? Yeah. So the spring statement, which it was new to me, but it's like a mini budget, but you're not allowed to call it a budget. I think is that correct?
That's about the size of it, I think. Yeah.
And the headlines were all about defence spending increasing and big cuts to the welfare budget, and that was all the coverage. But I think what wasn't in the speech was any money for music education or any of the stuff for grassroots venues that the MBT has been looking for. So a lot of the stuff that the music industry has asked for in recent months and was hoping might happen didn't. And so, yeah, who's criticising it? AIM. So G. Davey is the CEO of AIM, the independence body. She said, well, there's stuff in there that's like employment schemes and living wage increases, but they won't work if music businesses are unable to trade. So she was saying, look, we need support to kind of keep going. Is it the Nighttime Industries Association?
Yeah.
Michael Kill, you must know him and them. He went in for the kill aptly with his name. He said it was a reckless dereliction of duty that blatantly disregards the nighttime economy's desperate need for support. So the gist of the criticism was this is a really critical point for grassroots music. And I think that's something now is talked about both music education and youth music projects, but also like we've talked about the independent venues and that kind of structure. And that it wouldn't take much to help. But right now, I mean, stop me if I get too political, but I guess there seems to be two priorities for the government. One is like they need to balance the books without putting taxes up because they promised they wouldn't put this and that tax up. So they've got to balance the books and there's not much money. Everyone is being told no more. And that's before this possible trade war kicks off tomorrow. So President Trump is apparently going to announce loads of tariffs, and this could kind of play merry havoc with economies around the world. So this is not a priority, really. It's the stuff that was announced, the welfare cuts and the defence stuff is the big priorities right now for the government. And so what the music industry has been asking for isn't being done. And I think this comes back to what you said before, that maybe it does throw the ball back to the music industry. And it's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, Universal, Warner, Sony Music. Maybe they do need to step up because the government is doing some stuff. Like we've talked, haven't we, about the whole idea of a grassroots ticketing levy. Levy? How do you say levy? Levy. I don't know. Levi. I never know. Like the government is doing stuff there, isn't it? It's getting everyone in a room and saying you need to do this, and if don't, we'll make it. Like it is doing some stuff for music. It's not completely uninterested, but in terms of more money, it feels like it's a no for now, and so maybe that is the industry's job to kind of step up.
Okay, Apple Music has enabled subscribers to build and mix sets directly from the platform's catalogue of over 100 million songs. This is something which you've been hoping for a while now, is it? Is this actually the chance to be able to do some mixing of sorts, to build a playlist where you can turn it into a DJ set?
Yeah, it's the day for bedroom DJs across the nation, across the world, in fact, which is kind of a big thing. I think I saw, I can't remember the exact stats. I saw a while back some stats about how much DJ equipment and software is bought not by professional DJs. It's by people who are doing it at home or doing it at the most for friends' parties. Mm-hmm. And that's been a huge growth, hasn't it? Like people going, yeah, I've hit my midlife crisis and I'm going to be a DJ in my bedroom. Which I could see appealing. So yeah, it's Apple Music. It's partnerships between Apple Music and a bunch of DJ hardware and software companies. So like Serato and Algorithm and Newmark, and so a mixture of kind of professional DJ kit people, and then the stuff that you would get if you were a home DJ. And yeah, it means if you're a subscriber to Apple Music, you can DJ using those services with its catalogue of music. So instead of sticking an entire collection on a USB stick, which I guess is that nowadays. I mean, you know more than me. What do DJs take now? It might be a box of vinyl, but it's more often a USB stick, isn't it?
It really depends on what sort of DJ you are. I think a lot of people DJ off laptops now, don't they? And memory sticks, and that's easy. Or you have two CDJs, which you put memory sticks into. You can do it that way. Or as I reverted to on Saturday, CDRs, just burn some CDs, work out what you're going to play, burn the CDs, play the CDs. But yeah, I sometimes use memory sticks. I haven't got as far as the laptop yet, because obviously there's the benefit with a laptop is, you've got so much software these days which can help you, beat match and do all the, and put reverb on and echo and all sorts of, you can loop stuff instantly. So it depends. I think it depends partly how good you are, partly how up to date you are, and partly how professional you are.
Yeah, fair enough. I once did a demo of Tractor had a new DJ app for iPad, and I demoed it. And they were lovely people, really nice. And it soon became clear to them they wanted to demo it to me by me doing it, and they quickly realised I couldn't do anything. I couldn't beat match or anything, and they were very polite. But yeah, so this is kind of, I think it's a good thing, but and it's part of Apple Music has been doing a lot more with electronic music and DJ mixes. So they actually, a few years ago, they started putting more DJ mixes on Apple Music. And they also had some technology to make sure that every song that was in those mixes got paid royalties, which was one of the things that in the past stopped there being DJ mixes on streaming services, because they were like, well, how do we pay royalties? We can't really identify what. So they've been leaning into this more. And there's kind of a fun shithousery angle, I'd like to describe it as here. So, we've talked before about Spotify planning this super fans tier, this kind of more expensive. And one of the features in that is some kind of mixing, remixing, mashing up. No one quite knows what, but there is some kind of mixing feature, and it's going to be one thing they think they can charge more money for. And now Apple Music has launched something possibly similar. We're not sure. But if it is similar, it's no extra cost for Apple Music. So it's kind of almost shooting Spotify in the foot before they launch their thing, saying we've done a thing. And this has happened before. So a few years ago, Spotify was planning to launch a high-res music tier with better music quality. And then one day Apple went, we're adding higher quality across Apple Music and no extra cost. And it just completely kind of squashed that idea. So in my head, I'm like, I wonder if Apple Music is doing it again, whether it's unwitting or not. Are they kind of getting ahead of a Spotify thing? But it might be completely different. But it is really good. I mean, there are so many people out there who are like, I'd like to DJ at home, or I'd like to DJ for my friends. And doing it with a streaming service does remove that whole thing of having to build up a collection. Yeah. But yeah, so it's worth trying if you've got that kit and if you've got an Apple Music sub.
What should we do next? PPL? Should we do the PPL figures? PPL has posted the highest annual revenues in its 90-year history. Just for people who are new to us and might not know, explain what or who PPL are and what they do, and then you can do the figures.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, PPL, they collect a collecting society. They collect public performance royalties and broadcast revenues. So it's for recordings, isn't it? And it's for radio, for TV, for recorded music played in gyms and pubs and public spaces, and also online services. So kind of, whereas PRS for music collects the publishing side of things, PPL collects the recording side. And they always very politely correct me if I get something wrong. So I know they're right with us. But that's as I understand it. So they're, collecting society for recordings, and they collect for labels and artists. And it was 301 million quid last year, which was up 6% from the previous year. A good rise in public performance revenue, so stuff played in public, which had a really tough time in COVID, obviously when everywhere shut down. So that's kind of on the up again. Good rise in 7% rise in the international collection. So that's British artist music being played overseas. So that's kind of almost like, it doesn't contradict it, but it's a nice positive story about music from here internationally, when there's been a lot of worry about British artists not doing so well. And I was I was having a think about like digging a bit deeper into these figures. And one thing I thought was that, like, how is this pie of money being distributed? How is it being sliced up? Because 5 years ago, I went back and looked, and 5 years ago, PPL collected 271.8 million quid, and that went to 104,000 artists and labels. So if you did an average, which is not a really useful figure, it was about 2,613 quid each. If you average, obviously Ed Sheeran is getting a lot more than that. Most people are getting less, but yeah. But then last year, so 301 million quid, which is more, which is good, but that went to 172,000 people being paid. So that is 68,000 more people are getting a slice of that pie. So it's an average of like 1,750 each. So the one thing you can see here, and this is not a problem for PPL, it's a sign that they're kind of signing more people up, but there's a lot more people scrabbling for a slice of these royalties. And again, although you're Ed Sheeran, if you're Ed Sheeran, you're doing pretty well from your stuff being played in pubs. If you're lower down the kind of industry pyramid, there's a lot more competition nowadays. There's 68,000 more people getting paid from what PPL is collecting. But yeah, otherwise good. And they're very proud. I think they've had their 90th birthday. Was it last year or this year? I think it was last year, wasn't it? But they had a year of celebrating being 90, which is like a ripe old age. But hitting a record is good news.
When you think about super successful businesses that are selling through the roof like Heinz or Mattel, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But there's a secret. The business behind the business making selling simple for them and buying simple for their customers. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout as Heinz and Mattel. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/promo, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/promo to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/promo.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Music industry acquisitions. This is something we said would happen a lot this year. Well, always. It's always been going on. But there's going to be even more, we predicted this year. Here's another one. This involves a company called Concord. Some people will know, buying a company called STEM, which I'd never heard of.
Yeah, it's such a like explain. I mean, for Concord, for those who don't, I mean, they're independent music, aren't they? But I always thought of them as someone who bought catalogs. But they also have a label side, and they work with, like I say, I think I was looking at their roster actually. It's like Indigo Girls, Korn, Sleater-Kinney, but also a bunch of old kind of rock bands, and like Paul Simon is on there. Like it's a mixture of real heritage acts, but they do still work with current artists. So STEM is really interesting. They're partly a distributor, so they're just one of those companies you can put your music onto streaming services with. But they've also built tools for artists to track their royalties and manage the financial side of their business.
Oh, that's interesting.
So this kind of sector is called financial tech, or like fintech is the abbreviation people use. And I've been writing a lot more about companies in that space in the last year, like figuring out, calculating royalties, analyzing things, splitting royalties, all that kind of financial process working stuff. It's not it's not the whizziest area of tech that people get excited about, things like, I don't know, the metaverse and blockchain, all this stuff. But actually financial tech is probably one of the most important things that it can make me. So they're one of those companies in that space. And yeah, like for weeks people were saying, oh, Concord is buying STEM apparently, but it happened. And some reports said they paid more than $50 million for it. Some said more than $100 million. 90 million was one figure I saw kind of quoted quite confidently. So it's quite a big acquisition. And they're going to spin off its financial tools into a separate company, so they'll still carry on. It's an example, I suppose, the context for it is an example of like an independent music company being bought not by a major label. And there were rumors that Sony and Warner might have been interested in buying STEM, and they may even have been bidding for it in the process. But Concord, although Concord is quite a big company, it's not a major label. So in a sense, we've seen, we talked about the worries that independent people have about, well, the majors are buying all the interesting stuff. This is an example of a big independent company buying another independent company. And I think some of the quotes for the acquisition were talking about this bringing strength to the independent sector, this being quite a good thing for the sector as a whole, not just for these companies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. A new report from SoundCloud has been dishing the data on the next breakthrough music scenes. Come on, then.
Yeah.
What are they? And what have they been? They've just been poking around in their stats and saying whatever egg punk is the next thing.
Exactly that. So I mean, like SoundCloud, it's not the biggest streaming service, but it's always been that place where stuff breaks through, isn't it? And like, I think their big successes like Chance the Rapper, he kind of emerged on SoundCloud. Billie Eilish in her early days and Lorde, like their first stuff was released on SoundCloud, just put up on SoundCloud. And yeah, it's always been this bubbling part of like, and the other thing is SoundCloud is that every song is tagged. And so you put a tag on the music when you upload it. And so that gives them a huge data to say, oh, right, this tag of this particular genre is suddenly shooting up in popularity. So they have a good insight.
Right.
I remember I interviewed one of the founders like years ago, like a decade ago. And the first thing he said was like, yeah, have you heard of Witch Hop? And I was like, which what? He's like, Witch Hop, it's up and coming. And also Mermaid. Like, so they always had this idea of these random genres. So it's just done a big report on that. And what it's doing is saying, look, we are the place still where these new genres flourish. So that's what it's about. So yeah, last year, apparently, Plug was big.
Plug.
Yeah.
The Plug.
Plug with two G's, which is like, it's a kind of a mixture of trap and jazz and southern hip hop. And then there's also Plug and B, which is that with an extra bit of R&B.
Yep.
More synths. And then thankfully back on the firm ground, British rap was really big here in the UK. So that's having a continued moment on SoundCloud. But yeah, so what's next? So they've chose 5 scenes that are next. And it sounds like nonsense when you read it out. But so kaleidoscopic new rap.
Okay.
Eclectic new indie. Dark evolution of trap. Transatlantic rap connections. And the best one, the prismatic world of trance, which is so. And this is like, it sounds a bit silly, but these are things. So these are scenes more than genres. So they're finding more British and American rappers collaborating. That's Transatlantic rap. There's a whole bunch of new young artists making trance music. So a lot of this is kind of ties into this idea of like so much of the 90s is back in different ways. And trance it was trance 90s, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing is the fastest growing genres on SoundCloud in the UK last year. So hip hop was top, which is maybe not a surprise because that's the biggest on streaming. But then rock and metal was the second fastest growing genre on SoundCloud here. Really? And then folk and country the third, which they might be from smaller bases, so that's why they're fastest growing. But it's kind of interesting that SoundCloud is seeing a bunch of rock and metal bands and folk and country artists, which maybe, you'll see this more than I do, I think, about. I've seen some really interesting young bands who are kind of, I think, oh, wow, they're the kind of bands that I thought didn't do well in streaming, but are kind of cutting through. Yeah. So I feel like maybe that's happening. So yeah. But yeah, I think prismatic trance is my new jam. I'm gonna go. But the good thing is that this report, and you can find it if you search for what's it called? SoundCloud Music Intelligence Report. You can go in, and for each of these emerging scenes, it gives you a list of tags. And you can then use that to go and find this stuff, and it tells you some of the artists coming up. So it's a really, if nothing else, it's a really good. If you fancy spending an hour going and listening to new stuff breaking through on SoundCloud, this report is a really good launchpad for that. So
okay, all right. One last story, which was a late addition to the running order. In fact, all I've got written down here is Harry Kane. Are we on the wrong? Should this be on Price of Football?
I think
have we got our podcast mixed up? What's Harry Kane done? What could Harry Kane possibly have done this week that is music related?
I think right now the Price of Football podcasting and their last item just says Spotify playlist, and they're sitting there going, "What? Hang on." Yeah. So Harry Kane has turned music investor. He's invested in a music startup, which I didn't see coming. He's not retired. He's still banging the goals in mostly. Yeah. But yeah, so it's a company called Seat Unique, they're kind of one of those VIP ticketing companies. So if you want to get a posh box or hospitality for a big concert. So they're currently, I actually went looking to sort of get an example for you. So they're doing stuff for like Oasis and Coldplay and Beyonce and Sam Fender. So the big stadium arena gigs. And if you can buy a 699 quid ticket for Beyonce, and for that, you get 3-course meal, complimentary beer, wine, and soft drinks. You get a dedicated host and bar staff, and you get a premium padded seat, which for some people is worth the 699 quid alone. And so, yeah, Harry Kane is invested in the company as part of this new funding round, so that the company's valued at more than 100 million quid. He is the big name in the round. He's not the first footballer to invest in it. So how about I can make you guess? Which there's another ex-England footballer is associated with an investment fund that's got a stake in this company.
Another ex-England footballer.
Yeah. A rugged centre-back. There you go, I'll give you a clue.
Oh, I mean, the image of John Terry has just sprung to mind.
Exactly that, John Terry.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, the investment fund associated with him has got a stake in it. Also funds associated with Dame Jessica Ennis-Hill and Ben Stokes, the cricketer. So part of this company's playbook, because it sells sports events too, is it gets these sports stars in as kind of investors and ambassadors. And so Harry Kane is the latest. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a growing trend. Like this idea of, you often see startups raising money when they're kind of, before they get to the really big fundraising rounds, they're raising from kind of angel investors, so like the early investors, but also they call it high net worth individuals, which can mean people who've sold startups and got loads of money, or millionaires. But that is sports stars too, and music stars as well. Like I've written about, who is it? Chainsmokers and Metallica and Kygo. They're all musicians who've got like their own investment funds that actually invest in startups.
Oh, really?
So it's becoming like a thing. Like, you know, if you've got money, if you're a certain level of money, whether you're a sports star or music star, you can invest in startups. And if it's in your industry, it's something you know about.
Yeah.
So, you know, Harry Kane's. So, yeah. So it's I think we're going to see more of this. Like more sports related startups will get footballers investing in them, and more music ones will get musicians. But I mean, it's probably...
I've just got an image in my head now of all the members of Metallica. So it's a new version of Dragon's Den, where it's just all the members of Metallica sat there in the chairs as various startup companies come in and try and persuade them to invest in whatever piece of fintech they've come up with, or whatever it may be. Or even better, maybe a chain smoker, member of Metallica, and anybody else who is investing.
Do you know what Metallica's investment fund is called? I'm checking this now. I've read it out. Is it theirs? Black Squirrel Partners. Black Squirrel. There must be. Is that a Metallica lyric? I wouldn't know. But yeah, Black Squirrel Partners. But yeah, so this is the thing. So I think like Harry Kane. Who has there's a company in the UK that got Robbie Williams as an investor. Like, I think if you're an artist of a certain level now, you have money to spend. And you either do the Robbie Fowler route of buying up half of a town, buying property, or you go into start. So it's kind of, in a way, investing in startups is a new buying a pub for footballers. Like it's their retirement nest egg, and you can't drink the profits of a startup, so it's even more healthy for you.
I think that is where we should leave this week's episode. Thank you very much for listening. As ever, we do appreciate it. And if you have enjoyed the show, do subscribe in your podcast app and give us a review and a rating if you have time. Every little helps. You can also support what we do through our Patreon page, where you can become a Price of Music fan or super fan for as little as £2 a month. Just go to patreon.com/thepriceofmusic to find out more. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us all your queries or anything else. If you'd just like to drop us a line, get in touch. Let us know you're there. thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com is our email address. thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Till next week. Take care, everybody. Ta-ra.